The last thing that came to his mind as a new dentist was, what if all this is ahead of him is stripped away? What if his very presence no longer existed? What if all schooling and hard work just evaporated? All the unimaginable turned out to be what happened to a new dentist, the late Dr. Manu Dua. Dr. Manu Dua's journey with oral cancer is a poignant reminder of the fragility of life. As a healthcare professional himself, he knew how easy it is to become immune to the idea that we too can fall ill. But when the unthinkable happens, it hits us hard. His sister, Dr. Parul Makkar, is a general dentist based in New York who has recently authored a powerful and moving book, Life Interrupted, Dr. Dua's survival guide, as a tribute to her younger brother, Dr. Manu Dua, who lost his life to oral cancer in March of 2021 at the young age of 34. During his battle with cancer, Manu and Parul wrote a series of blogs that eventually became the foundation for the book. Thank you, Dr. Parul, for coming to our studio and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Talk about your brother, Dr. Manu Dua, and his journey with oral cancer.
So Manu was very young. He was 34 at the time of death and just turned 33 at the time of diagnosis. And just like a lot of young people, you're not thinking that you could have cancer. And he was a badminton player, he played rugby, he was sporty and healthy, private practice, so he was concentrating on life, and he just didn't think it would be cancer. And he was diagnosed at stage 2 and had a major surgery, and the cancer came back, and he knew time was very limited, and he decided that he wanted to help and share his journey and talk about it and make people more aware of what it is. Yeah.
When you talk about stage 1 or stage 2, that seems like a very initial stage, something where any cancer or any disease would be preventable. What really went wrong with that?
So stage 1 is when it's early in diagnosis. You know, you just see it, it's not spread. And then the stages are, every cancer has its own staging. Mm-hmm. And with Manu, there was lymph node involvement, so it was stage 2, but there was no metastasis at the initial time. So he was treated in Canada, and I think he didn't get radiation chemo after his first surgery, where half his tongue was removed and grafted, the lesion was taken care of. But the cancer is very aggressive in nature, especially oral cancer, because it's so close to such vital structures, and the lymph nodes are so, they're right there, and they spread quickly. So in his case, the cancer returned for that reason. And he also, this was the time of COVID when his cancer returned. So it was even more hard to get the treatment appropriately because of COVID restrictions. And so I think it's just aggressive nature and a little bit late diagnosis and lymph node involvement that it went so quickly.
Yeah. Your brother was a dentist himself, an oral hygienist. It is sheer irony that he found himself on the other side of the table and finally died of metastasis in March of 2021. How did you convince yourself to believe that though through the darkest of times, there is still hope and the power of human spirit through adversities prevails? It's very uncomfortable for me also. You know, I have seen his pictures, I have gone through some of the podcasts and blogs, and
it is one of the hardest things. Yes, he was a dentist himself. I'm a dentist. This is the cancer he was meant to diagnose and treat himself. Unfortunately, you know, call it fate or
he called destiny. You are the first person he
I was
called.
The first, yeah, because he showed me the initial lesion. I told him, get it checked out, and he's like, no, it can't be cancer. Yes. And, you know, nobody wants to believe it. It's nobody ever, regardless of age. Yes. It's very evil. But that was in 2019, and the following year when, you know, we had more reports come out, I remember him calling me and saying, Didi, this is metastatic, I am going to die, and I'm prepared for it. And I, as obviously as his older sister, he's born in front of me. We're almost 8 years apart. I'm like, no, this can't be true. We've got to find out. There's going to be options. You know, this was the time the metastasis was showing, but it wasn't confirmed. And I said, it could be something else. It can't be. You're going to be fine. We're going to find a way out. He's like, no, I've accepted it. I'm not angry. I'm okay with it. And that's when he started writing these blogs, these stories. And they felt more to me when he's gone. He sees words and he writes it in first person. That's what kind of gave me the confidence to move forward, because when you lose someone like that at the time of COVID, you know, you expect your parents, your grandparents, it's the circle of life, but you never expect your younger brother to outlive you. And so when I started reading and I understood what he was talking about, he talks about out-of-body experiences, and he says the body can endure pain if, you know, your mind can be trained. He talks about being out of his mind, out of his body, and watching over to see all the stuff that he was going through. He had almost achieved this sense of enlightenment in his writings, if you notice. And I think that's kind of gave me the courage. Like, he knew his fate was imminent.
He didn't try to fight it or...
No.
But he did have like one surgery.
He had 2 surgeries. He did rounds of chemo. He didn't fight his diagnosis. He fought the cancer, and he fought till the very end. He never said, no, I won't try a new treatment. I won't do that. He didn't give up on fighting, but he was okay that he may not live to see 35th birthday. He was okay with what tomorrow would come or not. He mentions it. He's like, it may come tomorrow or not. I'm not promised. Nobody's promised that. And why should we fear our own mortality? Because everyone's going to die one day. We're all mortal beings. And the way we can stay immortal is creating something good and leaving something positive for the world. And that's his work.
You mentioned that this book is about mistakes made by the Canadian health system and how it failed a Canadian citizen. How did your brother's experience change your perspective on dentistry and healthcare?
So, in my opinion, I felt like, you know, after his first surgery, it's standard of care to get chemoradiation with a lymph node involvement. He didn't receive that. His follow-up was late. He didn't get the right PET scan in time. When the cancer returned, they didn't see for metastasis until it was too late, until the cancer returned and it was spread. So that's where the faults are, and it was getting the right amount of care at the right time. And his diagnosis happened pre-COVID, so there was opportunity to do so. And, you know, it changes a lot about dentistry. It has changed. Manu decided to leave dentistry when his cancer had returned for the second time. He walked away and he said, you know, dentistry it was very taxing on him, especially after surgeries. And he said, I want to do what I want to do. I want to live life to the fullest because I know I have a very limited amount of time. And he chose to live it the way he wanted to on his terms, buying a Porsche, getting a dog, you know, filling all these bucket list requirements. And
he had a bucket list?
Yeah, that's what he wanted, a Porsche. He wanted a nice fancy car, so he got it. And he's like, you know, and that's what his message was. He's like, nobody knows how life will change, and it could be a loss of life, a terminal illness, it could be a dissolving of a marriage, it could be changing situations, economic downturn, anything. So really live life to the fullest and live it on your own terms. And that's how I changed my perspective, and it made me more empathetic. You know, when somebody loses, you say, oh, we're sorry for your loss, and you kind of move on. And this journey made me realize that the loss is felt every single day, every single moment, and you can't just move on. And it may be a month, it may be a year, it may be 10 years, it may be never. It's always around you. It's like this burden, which is heavy on some days and it's lighter on other days, but you live with it.
In your opinion, what steps can dentists take to improve early detection and treatment of oral cancer?
Sure. So oral cancer has been increasing. There are about 54,000 cases that get diagnosed annually. And the biggest thing is catching it early. It's such a hard cancer to detect because it's found like underneath the tongue. It may be non-painful, or it's in the back of the throat. And the rise has been due to HPV, which is human papillomavirus related cases. Manu's wasn't there. Manu's was on the tongue. It was more in the front of the mouth. So one is talking about your patients, knowing have they had any changes, such as trouble swallowing or a lump they feel, just like you would do a breast exam at home. If you check your own neck and you feel something, changes in voice, numbness, tingling, any sores, anything in your mouth. Let's say you ate something hot and it burnt your tongue, or you scraped with a chip, something, any injury in your mouth, any soreness should heal within 2 weeks. And if it doesn't, and this is things like you, as if you're examining your patient and you're like, hey, did you notice there's this here? And the patient may say, no, I don't know about it. All right, let's have you come back in 2 weeks. If it hasn't healed, we will biopsy this. And biopsy shouldn't be a scary word because it's just telling you what it is. It's not necessarily it is cancer. It's just saying, okay, do we need to treat it with, is it a fungal thing? Is it a bacterial thing? Is it a cancerous thing? What is it? Or is it a trauma lesion? So that shouldn't be scary. And having these conversations with your patients and, did you update your medical history? Keeping up on that. You have cancer history, we need to be a little vigilant. You have prostate cancer or breast cancer, there are chances of metastasis in the mouth. So knowing all these, like just talking to your patients and being more vocal and doing the head and neck exams. It takes 2 minutes to do it, but
I've never had a dentist tell me any of these things.
Yeah.
And I would dread going to dentist like 99% of the population because it's so scary.
Yeah.
But you would just think they're there for cavities, cleaning teeth, and wisdom tooth extraction.
No.
You don't really expect, to discuss oral cancer. But that is such an important thing.
Yes.
A dentist should talk about that.
Yes. And getting the HPV vaccine, so that's with your pediatrician. You want to get them in the early, preteens, early teens. But yeah, talking, smoking, vaping, chewing tobacco, bond, like especially in the South Asian community, these are, you can say, yeah, I don't smoke, but I have a pan every night. Well, that's no good. That's even worse. And people think hookah is not, it's safe because you're not actually holding the cigarette, but it's longer exposure to tobacco over a period of time. And vaping is, vaping with nicotine is banned in Australia now. They banned it in October because it's so carcinogenic. It's more socially acceptable than smoking, but it still is harmful. So there's all these other risk factors, alcohol use, and so when you talk to your patient, like, especially if you know that they are smokers, if you know that they're heavy drinkers, like really being mindful and the whole body is connected to your mouth. Oral health is linked to diabetes, to Alzheimer's, to dementia, to
really?
Pregnancy. Before starting even cancer treatment, you want to make sure you're healthy. Before going for surgeries, you make sure you're not having any loose teeth. So it's connected to diabetes. It's connected to everything. And if you don't have good oral health, you don't have good teeth, you're bleeding gums, it affects your personal. Like if you have a lot of cavities or missing loose teeth, you don't have the self-confidence, you don't smile, you don't talk, you don't eat well. So it's all connected. It's all part of the same. Yeah, so it's so important, oral care. And it's not like, when people get a toothache, they come and they're like, oh, it's the worst pain. Or I never knew that I would rather have a child and give birth than a toothache, because it's a part of the body you can't rest, right? You break your arm, you can rest it, but teeth?
True.
Yeah, they're constant stress.
In your opinion, what steps can dentists take to improve early detection and treatment of oral cancer? We've quite touched that part,
Yeah.
but if you want to elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, the best is looking, talking, feeling, doing that oral head and neck exam, making the patients move left to right, checking their lymph nodes, and push for the biopsy within 2 weeks. You don't have to alarm the patient, but be mindful of what you're doing. And
when you say lymph nodes, like, just show me on your face or neck,
right,
what
so you
exactly.
want to be checking. Even you can do this even
Yeah.
at home, like checking underneath here. So we have there's a whole
There are
lymph
tonsils
system.
here, like what?
Tonsils are
here.
right under, like when you open your mouth, you can see your
Right.
tonsils. So if you get a cold, you might have inflamed lymph nodes, right? So you might
Right.
have. So we're talking, if anything is only on one side of your mouth, that's more cause of worry. Like if you're sick and you get both sides inflamed, then you're like, okay, fine, that's probably a cold. But anything that's only on one side of your mouth, like if you stick your tongue out and it moves to one side, it deviates.
Oh.
That means there's something that's blocking, maybe there's growth. But yes, so underneath here, underneath this whole area, and this right here. So when you move from right to left, you want to make sure that these are all lymph nodes here. Right here, this neck region, making sure there's nothing that's kind of bumpy, all around here. So this whole area, the head and neck, checking underneath the tongue, right and left, checking underneath the lip. So important to wear sunscreen because that can cause, just like skin cancer, you can get oral cancer
Sunscreen where?
on the lips.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
and just like you get skin cancer on your face, you could get oral cancer on your lips from sunlight exposure. So people who
Is
are
there
out.
a special sunscreen for
No,
lips?
just
The
anything
regular,
that's
the same
SPF,
one?
yeah, or 50 and above, yeah.
The lip balm doesn't help.
The lip balm just keeps it moist, right? As long as it's got some sort of SPF, 50 and
Gotcha.
above in it. So yeah.
Can you talk about the importance of performing a comprehensive head and neck examination during dental appointments?
Yeah, this is it. Like,
We
Yeah.
already did that.
yeah.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions about oral cancer that you would like to address?
One of the biggest, is that it can happen to me. Yes, it can. Cancer does not hold bar against anybody, age, your marital status, or your economic status, or your habits, or even if you're healthy, so cancer can affect anybody. That's the biggest misconception. And it's happening more and more. Like, I would say a fourth of the population contracting oral cancer right now is under 50. And how aggressive it is in nature, that you can't die of oral cancer. Yes, you can. HPV-related oral cancers is the #1 sexually transmitted disease right now over STDs, according to the World Health Organization. So getting your HPV vaccines.
So the STD, the sexually transmitted disease, that can also cause the oral cancer.
HPV,
Yeah.
which is a human papillomavirus, is what's detected when you are going for your pap smears, when you're detecting for cervical cancers. So that same cancer causes 6 different types of cancers: anal, rectal, penile, but it also causes oropharyngeal cancer. So the cancer that's or to the throat cancer, or cancer that's on the back of your mouth. So those cancers are caused by HPV, and it's a sexually transmitted. The good thing is that it's a virus, and it cleans, your body gets rid of it within 1 to 2 years. But so you haven't been exposed to it at some point in your life, but for some reason, and there's no the scientists are not sure what is the trigger that causes it to progress into oral cancer in certain people. But the way to shelter yourself or to protect yourself is getting the vaccine early on, early teens. Yeah.
Can you tell us about some of the challenges you faced while writing the book and how you overcame them?
So Manu wanted this book to be
Let's
published.
see the book.
Yes. It's Life Interrupted, Doctor Do a Survival Guide. And this is in Jasper, which is where Manu used to love to go boating.
Oh.
And I wrote the epilogue and the foreword to the book, and some pictures.
Do you want to read that for us?
The foreword is pretty
The back page?
small. The back page? Yeah, sure.
Sure.
So this is the story of my younger brother, Dr. Manu Dua, who battled oral cancer for almost 2 years. These are a series of blogs that he penned when faced with his own mortality at the age of 34. He had accepted and made peace with his fate. These blogs are filled with much depth and wisdom. It chronicles his realization of life and what and who truly matters. May these blogs serve as a gentle reminder to not take life for granted, that no matter what we plan, things are out of our control, call it our fate or destiny, that through the darkest of times there is still hope, and that the power of the human spirit through adversity prevails. May you find comfort in his words, should you or your loved ones walk this difficult road.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's available on Amazon and or on my website, which is parulduamakkar.com. And it was a way to heal, to complete the story he started.
What advice do you have for families who are supporting loved ones through cancer treatment?
It's a tough journey. It's very tough. Have the difficult conversations, like what your loved ones, if it is terminal and you know the life expectancy is a few years or months, know their last wishes, what they would have liked. Take lots of photos and pictures and videos to remember them with. And know that cancer is so evil. The person who has the cancer one day will maybe pass. And the cancer will stop hurting that person. But cancer will still affect you, the loved one who's watching. And we are still affected by it. And so know that it's a tough journey ahead. Get the help, reach out and talk, go for a walk, find a friend, find something to release, and all the energy or all the anguish that you have. Things are going to be out of your control, and you're going to have to watch from the sidelines. And it's one of the hardest things to watch a loved one go through treatment and rounds of chemo, radiation, surgery, pain, discomfort, and know that you're not alone, and to get help for yourself too. Yeah.
Finally, what are your hopes for the future of cancer treatment and research?
I just hope that, there are advances being made. Unfortunately, just like there are certain cancers you have screening tests, in oral cancer there really isn't, except touch, feel, and getting those lesions checked out early. So hopefully there's a test that's non-invasive that can detect earlier, and that there just be some magic cure that cancer doesn't take the young life like this again. No family should have to go through what we did.
Before we end this interview, many congratulations to Dr. Parul on recently winning an award at the Indian American Forum's 12th Annual Women's Achievement Award Gala.
Thank you.
How did it feel?
Surreal, because, what I'm doing, raising awareness and sharing the story of my brother, it's been very natural, and to know that it's making a difference and getting recognition for it is just a validation of the work that I'm doing, and that I keep doing it to bring about a change.
Of course.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts to share with our audience?
My goodness. Just live fully, live your best life, live for yourself, not people's expectations. People will have expectations of what they want you to do, but really do stuff that brings you pure joy and makes you content. Don't go chasing after somebody else's dreams, chase for your own dreams and do something good.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Parul, for talking to us and helping us understand loss and hope we're doing a little better every time. And we read your book, Life Interrupted. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for talking to us.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Nidhi.
Pleasure.